Most of you would be very surprised to learn that experienced businessmen and even professional marketers don't know the simple formula for marketing budget. And very few of those who know it are using it to its full potential. I have educated over 35,000 professional marketers, and less than 1% were able to calculate the marketing budget for their business properly before attending my courses. So in this video, I'll show you how to use the marketing budget formula to make a media plan like the top 1% of marketers in the world do it, with some real examples. The formula is one of the first steps to creating your marketing budget or media plan, and it helps you decide how much can your business afford to spend on marketing. And later, we'll look at how much you should spend to grow your profits optimally. A lot of people try to cover this topic, and among them are some of the best marketing agencies and even some of the best marketers in the world, like Gary Vee, Neil Patel, and others who know this stuff very well, but they don't explain how to actually apply it in practice very well in their videos. Nobody has really nailed it so far, and that's what I'll try and do in this video. Let's start with some common mistakes and funny examples of what not to do. And if you are doing any of these, even to a small extent, you should 100% watch this video to the very end. The first and most common mistake is people thinking that a marketing budget is how much you should expect to spend on advertising within a specific time frame. Most people have it like that in their head, and it's wrong in every possible way. That's the X per month idea. For example, we'll spend $70,000 per month. The problem with that is that it has no connection with sales target, it doesn't consider workload and who will handle the work if sales triple, and in general, it has no relation to any of the business numbers, and it's almost always completely random, not connected to reality in any way. It's usually whatever the boss feels comfortable with. That's the worst approach of all. Next is percentage of revenue, but this one is also doomed to eternal failure because business numbers scale disproportionately as you scale. And usually with this approach, you don't start to scale ever. I'll show examples of this later. The next mistake I see very often is campaign budget being assigned to campaigns focusing on multiple different goals. A good example is some campaigns focusing on awareness, others focusing on sales, third focusing on growth, whatever that means, and others are focusing on clicks, and it becomes very messy. Campaigns should reinforce each other, focusing on the end goal, and their budget should always be distributed in relation to their contribution towards the end goal. This mistake is most often done by pros trying to show good performance in all possible ways in all campaigns. Next, we have marketers looking at what competitors are doing and saying, hey, look, they advertise here and there, doing this and that, and we should do the same. That's wrong almost 100% of the time. Next is the constant CPA fallacy. And that's people thinking that if their campaign spent $1,000 and got them 100 customers, then their CPA will stay at $10, even if they spend $1 million. And that's just not true because the CPA usually increases as you scale because you encounter more competition and wider audiences are less efficient most of the time. Another very common one is having partial budgets. And one does not simply make a partial budget. A budget for this product or that category doesn't make any sense. Separate budget for awareness, or the worst example, separate budgets for online and offline sales are just insane. Your marketing budget is for all the sales of the company, even if you already have a large existing customer base. Especially then, because at this stage you should have a lot of campaigns focusing on existing customers instead of just spending everything on new ones. It is almost impossible that one campaign you have does not impact all others and vice versa. For example, a huge TV campaign you're not tracking at all will surely impact searches for your products and brand, thus impacting both your organic traffic and ads on Google for your brand searches. And then these will impact your remarketing campaigns and they will all generate awareness, and you can see where this is going. Last but not least is marketers creating their budget and making decisions with partial information. This happens when the marketing team does not know the margins, business expenses, and other important business numbers that they need to set targets properly, to make campaigns the right way, and to help the business make the right decisions. Now that we know the most common mistakes, let me show you how the top 1% of marketers do it right. Before you can actually make a marketing budget, there are some very important numbers you need to know. Let me introduce those with a simple imaginary business selling apples and with a little help from the basic business formula. We will start with the price, which in this case is $10, or you can also think of it as the revenue per acquired customer. Then from that, we have to take out the cost of goods, which is the amount of money we spend to produce or acquire a product. In this example, we buy our apples for $2. In that cost, we typically include shipping, packaging, payment processing, and anything else you spend per sale to get the cost of goods sold, or COGS. So cost of product plus expenses per sale gives you the COGS. When we subtract the cost of goods from the price, we get our margin. Then we need to know how many people are in our target audience, and we need to set a sales target. In this example, we have an audience or market size of 1,000 people and a sales target of 100 apples, which if we achieve would give us a market share of 10%. Now that leads us to the total margin, which is the difference between our revenue and cost of goods sold. It can also be calculated in another way by multiplying the margins by the number of times each product was sold. But if you have a lot of products, the first way is much easier. And it's important to know the total margin because it shows us how much our business can afford to spend on our operating expenses and our marketing budget. So let's quickly define what we mean by operating expenses, which is the money you spend to run your business for a given period of time. Note, it's also known as the cost of doing business or monthly expenses, and you have to pay it regardless of sales. This is very important. It includes salaries, offices, coffee, water, power, software subscriptions, and so on. But it does not include your marketing budget. We'll calculate that separately. It also does not include the cost of goods or the purchasing of assets like machinery, land, or real estate. Remember, the creative and marketing teams do your marketing content, create campaigns, make videos, designs, ads, and so on, but they are still a part of your operating budget because you have to pay them even if you don't get any sales. It's important to keep track of the expenses for the marketing team specifically because of earned media channels like SEO and content marketing, which can bring a lot of sales and traffic, but don't have any spend reflected for that in the marketing budget. I like to think of them as increasing the efficiency of my total marketing budget by creating efficient campaigns and adding earned media traffic. I will show an example of how this works at the end. Now, that's very cool because from this, we can derive the formula for maximum marketing budget. Because when we get the total margin, all the money our business can afford to spend on operations and marketing, and we take out the operating expenses, we are left with the maximum amount of money we can spend on marketing in order to stay profitable. Simply said, if we spend more than that, we will have negative profit, so our marketing budget obviously cannot be more than that. And the goal is to generate enough sales or total margin to cover both the operating and marketing budgets. This helps us establish our minimum sales target, also known as break-even sales. This easily helps us deduce that our marketing budget is equal to the amount of sales we want to make, or our sales target, multiplied by the target cost per acquisition or target CPA for each sale. And there you have it, the simple formula for marketing budget. The CPA is equal to the amount of money you spend on average to acquire a new customer or sale. And when people say CPA or cost per conversion or cost per sale, they always mean the average cost per acquisition. And now it's time for us to set a limit for this as well. It quickly becomes obvious that the cost per acquisition cannot be more than the margin, because the marketing budget is sales times CPA and the total margin is sales times margin. And marketing budget has to be less than the total margin by an amount equal to our operating expenses at the very least. So if it is higher, our marketing budget will exceed the maximum our business can afford in order to stay profitable, and that's not going to work. Now, that is not to be confused with how much money you can afford and how much cash you have in the bank. You can be rich, but this is how much the business itself can afford in order to stay profitable. That said, with sufficient funding, you can grow at a loss for a long time before you turn profitable. Twitter is a good example. From here, we get that our margin is also equal to our maximum CPA. And from this, we obviously need to figure out a strategy that will be efficient enough for our CPA to be less than the margin. And before we dive in any further, I want to make a quick, important disclaimer. A budget or media plan is not a strategy. It is simply a plan outlining where you want to spend your money to distribute your message in order to reach your target audience. We simply can't cover marketing strategy in a single video, but thankfully we have 2 full courses on Masters Academy for business strategy and marketing strategy, where you can learn how to do everything that we're talking about here, like the best in the world do it, with loads of examples, templates, and exercises. So check those out if you're interested. They are the shortest and possibly the best in the entire World Wide Web right now, based on the reviews and feedback, and I'm sure you're gonna love them. Okay, enough with the shameless self-promotion. Let's cut to the chase. Now that we know all this, let's make a real example using Masters Academy and the basic business formula. Here, we are setting a lifetime membership. So I'm using the customer lifetime value instead of the price, and the COGS is my server costs for delivering the courses, plus payment processing and so on. We have a good margin and our monthly expenses are $32,000. So I set a target of 100 sales per month, and having in mind my strategy, I believe I can get customers at around $200 on average. Note that this is just my opinion right now, and it's almost 100% wrong. The actual number will not be exactly $200, but I will show you how to get a much more accurate estimate later in the breakdown. We just need to start with targets that give us at least a decent profit margin, because that will allow us to set a pessimistic target that will allow our business to work. For now, we have 100 sales times $200 equal to $20,000 for our budget. And if everything goes as planned, I should make about $16,000 in profit, which is a good profit margin because I have a little bit of leeway to spend some more or sell a little bit less before things go terribly wrong and I can't pay my expenses anymore. And by the way, please do use the formula to play around with the numbers for your business.